Hey guys, Boris here. The highest top 4 rate comp in the current meta is the Primordial reroll. Therefore, let's quickly take a look at the comp and then jump in game with a pro. Now, we are ideally playing this from already having 3 Primordial at 2-1 to start printing the extra gold, the units, and push tempo through that. Otherwise, it's also completely fine to lost streak to 3-1 or 3-2 in case you have one of these strong augments such as No Scout, No Pivot, or one of the attack speed artifacts for Belveth, with Evelyn's Instinct being the best one. We are looking to slam our items aggressively and spike on stage 3 and early stage 4, as this is where we're securing our placements. On level 5, we are looking to generally complete one of our 3-star 1 costs and getting close to the other one, and then push levels to 6 to secure that Belveth, and if we wish to hit on tempo, we are looking to finish her on 4-1 or 4-2. Don't be afraid to roll deep in case you are close to completing her. If we have one of these strong item augments or some form of emblems, we are fine to also look for an Akali 3. Make sure you have sufficient amount of items, otherwise duo that Kindred or Briar. Speaking of items, our general itemization is that QSSS and Kraken are absolutely necessary for Belveth, and then you find the last slot with another form of damage items, that's just Giant Slayer or Deathblade, whereas Akali wants Hand of Justice and Edge of Night for that survivability. Otherwise, Guardbreaker or other form of damage amp item is completely fine. Briar, if you are looking to itemize her exactly, you are looking for some bruiser type of items, but she's also fine to be holding onto your Kindred's attack speed items if you have sufficient amount of bows for that. Once we make it to level 9, we are generally capping around Shen or Morgana, assuming no emblems. And speaking of emblems, this comp is amazing at using emblems, and emblems are the best item augment in the current meta. We can use Nova, obviously, Primordial, Challenger, Rogue, Bastion, Bruiser, or Marauder, all opening up very different ways how we can cap our board if we are able to make it to that level 9. Speaking of Nova, we're going to have our Shred and Sunder sorted out through Aatrox, and in case we do not happen to be able to make Sunfire for our Rek'Sai, we can Nova Select our Akali for that wound. Otherwise, Nova Selector and Caitlyn for more damage jump early on in the fight as we're looking to burst through enemies is great, or if we find that we need a little bit more sustain, Nova Selectoring Maokai is amazing as well. For the Gods front, since we are playing a reroll comp, Varus is amazing. Otherwise, Echo, especially since it can provide the spatula, we can use that to make that Nova emblem, and the Anomaly is amazing on Rek'Sai. Otherwise, Yasuo's hexes are also amazing. There is the attack speed hex and the cryogenic hex, which are great in this comp. As usual, this sheet is going to be available and linked down below. I am also working on a unified sheet where we're going to have all these cheat sheets available. And now, let's jump in a VOD with a pro. For our VOD review, we are going to be jumping in game with the fan favorite, Mr. Robinsongz, right here, and let's see how he approaches the line. Our gods for the game are going to be Soraka and Echo, therefore already in back of our mind we are wanting to be aligning ourselves with the Echo, otherwise taking Soraka generally for the little bit more item influx. Those are the offerings that we are going to be looking for, are going to be great. Starting out with a Pyke pair. Pyke is a great unit that we can be playing around in early stages. He's amazing at picking off those front lines and securing some rounds, and is one of the ways how you can tempo into the Victor line. But we are not looking for that, and obviously we'd be ideally looking for drone or biomatter. Otherwise, we're going to be selling him off here, and already we see a Belveth in our shop. This is something we should definitely be holding on to, as finding the 1 cost is generally going to be easier. Otherwise, we have picked up the Ezreal for a potential to play around the time breakers. Holding on to that Gwen, she's amazing at AP carrying your AP items, and the core of the Vanguard, some form of Vanguards and Shepherds. As only you now see the Rod, but we have already a Kraken. That is going to be great for us. So for augment selection, Heroic Grab Bag on 2-1, we are only taking this if we want to tempo out a 2-star 3 cost, or if we are pretty much hard committing ourselves to something like the Victor line, you only take this for a 3 cost reroll if this line is extremely strong in the meta, and that has Heroic Grab Bag is right there. Savings account would be great if we either had some form of an econ engine to econ aggressively, or a decent board where we could just delay this to proc on something like the 4-2 and then play into a board that is generally being able to utilize the extra econ. Otherwise, No Scout, No Pivot, as already mentioned, is top tier for this Primordial reroll. But we see there's a player already with the Primordial on their board, but they have selected, it seems, the 2 tanky, so they're going to be going for that. Samira and Robbins calls the Belveth into the chat and is going to be just fielding the Briar here. Have to keep in back of your mind here the instincts that you do not want to be accidentally buying up a unit and fielding it here. And Banny Andrew here even selling off the Belvet, it seems. I guess they value to making 10 here a little bit more than having a little bit of extra econ, and perhaps saw that there's a contested loss streak going on right there. And obviously refielding 2 units are going to do that. But we are able to find that 3 Primordial early on, so this is amazing. This is going to provide us with a little bit extra econ and has the possibility to printing upgrades for ourselves. We see there's an Anima player as well, so we can see the reason why they are opening. We're wanting to be securing that loss streak, and we also have a calculated loss. The meta just being so open in these fronts. You can sometimes see these players in the so-called pissing matchup of the loss streak. Interesting places to be at. Now, we're going to be fielding another Rek'Sai here. The reason for that being is that if we find a Maokai or a Akali, they are generally going to be a little bit of better ins for our level 5 board. And since we are fielding a pair, once we 2-star that, we're going to be fine. We're obviously going to tag along with these Aatroxes as it's fine, and level 6 we are completely fine to slot that in, and we do want that Shred and Sunder on our board as fast as possible. But we have a little bit better options offered for our god selection. Now, we have the possibility of a Visage, but even though we are playing around some kind of econ, we are playing from a combat augment onto 1. Therefore, having the Scarlet Puddle here is going to be nice little bit econ influx exactly for our roll timer. And the chain is a decent, going to be half of our Sunfire perhaps, or other forms like a Crown Guard is great. I'm not exactly sure, but I believe it can provide you with an upside of an extra component, so you are getting that little bit of extra delayed value right there. And since we are queuing into these loss streaking players, we have managed to put ourselves on a 3 streak already. This is the top prime spot for us, as simply picking up a rounds on stage 2 is a free thing that we can definitely be doing, especially until we upgrade our board, and we are playing a scaling augment, so it's amazing to get us a little bit of an HP lead. And that is also another way we are securing placements off. And it's also great for us that there are going to be few players playing for that win out, and we can hope that most of them pick themselves off, and then we really only have 1 or 2 strong contenders in our later game. Now, the Primordial is going to print for ourselves the Rek'Sai too, so we're going to be baiting if we are fielding that Aatrox, and it seems that he's going to be just going for it, wants to be playing a strong board, and unfortunately we lost our loss streak, but still picking up a round is going to be completely fine. Now, this is a strong board, but thankfully it's only a team of 1, but they do have those 2 tank slams, so this Belvet might not exactly be able to get through it, and yeah, we just get demolished. The Teemo is a absolute beast on that stage too, and having your frontline items sorted out for him, and definitely with a Rage Blade Slam is going to be sufficient. 3 items should win you. Item slams early on generally should win you more rounds than you sometimes imagine, even without an fully upgraded board. Now, otherwise, I'm trying to think of ways how we would want to be finishing off this rod off early as possible. It's going to probably be considering the Crown Guard. Greeting that rod for an attack speed item is not going to, for the Rage Blade, is not going to be the best choice, since we just want to be spiking hard, right? We want to be spiking as fast as we possibly can, and he seems to be doing an interesting choice here. He's, instead of going for that level 5 roll down, which is the generally agreed upon way to be playing this, he's going to be instead going to level 6, and perhaps valuing the spike from the Belvet too so much. But even though we have a pair, we have a fair odds of fitting that on level 5. For our next option, now Launch Money is something that we should probably be rerolling first. Unless we are very ballsy and believe that we can punish this greedy lobby, sometimes you might be in spots to do so. Charge Transfer, we are not doing a lot of damage overkill, we are generally doing more bursty single target damage spikes, therefore it's not going to be that strong. Light Up is a decent option. Shred and Sunder is going to synergize this with decently, we're going to further reduce their armor and MR. And we are growing decent amount of frontliners, so he's actually going with the lineup right there, preferring that as a strong option. We find that Maokai, so now we have our 3 Nova board right there. Perhaps the reasoning also was that if we are playing no scout, no pivot, and if we are opting to roll a little bit deep here, then finding that Maokai is going to generally make a strong board for ourselves. I'm interested noting that he's not cornering his Akali. This is going to sometimes make your damage be split from the Belveth, but perhaps finding her that being having her secured and safe that way is a little bit stronger than rather than the Rek'Sai drawing aggro from 2 units immediately as an always guaranteed case. Now that we have this Velvet too, we are generally a little bit lacking on the item front. We are saving the glove obviously for that QSSS, and the chain could most likely transition into an anti-heal item into the Lost Streaker player, which seems to be playing for that mech board with the calculated loss, and the Twin Guardians being the prime combat augment for that line. And since we can see, we're scouting around, we're seeing that the lobby is not extremely strong. We're not under the pressure to be rolling for even further upgrades. Now we have the chance to be taking a little skull puddle, and I would prefer that rather than the Tactician's health. We cannot really make exact use out of these 2 components right away, unless we are opting to slam another Crown Guard, but doubling down on Crown Guard is not the best choice, but for tempo purposes it can be done. And Skull Party, since we have taken another combat augment, is going to sort our econ. So if we are leaning more into the econ god options, then we are completely fine to be taking more items and combat from our augment selections. So let's see if you are opting to save that rod now. Going to roll only now find that Briar 2, but we have already that would be 7 Belveths. So this might be a game where we are just going to simply 3-star Belvet. This is one of the downsides of rolling on level 6. You might not find that Rek'Sai 3, and then fishing Maokai 3 on level 8 is obviously an option if you're going to be stuck there and want to be under a position to be rolling for your Kindred 2 quite deep. But this can lead to some frontline problems until you make it to there. Now, very close fight that we pick up here. That is amazing for us, as definitely we are wanting to be picking up these rounds, and if the more rounds we pick up, the harder we're going to scale. Not going to be able to field that TK as we are playing Renault Scout now pivot now, and we also opted to make that double Crown Guard. Now, finding the Maokai 2 on 6 is a play that you can go for, but you might miss since it's only 25% odds. But generally you're going to have him sorted out after a decent amount of rolls, and now we're going to be transitioning the double Crown Guard on him, as it's obviously going to be a stronger frontline for us. We are also close with a single Belvet off, but holding our trigger right here to stay at 30 gold above to not completely nuke our eco, and we're still able to win no matter what. So we're in a prime spot going with a 75 HP into this next stage. The only worrying bit for me is that we are going to be far from our other 3 stars. The primordials, obviously the trait scales from the damage done by the primordial units, therefore having a little bit of extra 3 stars is also quite nice. Having to roll deep here, still not finding that Belvet 3, but we have managed to pick up other copies along the way, so now we are going to be going for 3 stars. So it has worked out in the end quite nicely for ourselves. Going to be making that Gunblade for a sustain, and slamming the TG on the Briar 3 is also a completely fine option. Now, our frontline, we did not exactly position the greatest way for this fight, so our other damage dealers get taken out, but the Belvet is kept safe through that Gunblade healing, and we're able to pick up a round and go on a 5 streak here. We are at 20 gold, which is a nice spot to be in, and we have picked up a Kindred for our next in right now, and for our next augment selection, Huna here seems to be amazing at providing either further damage for ourselves. Arcane Victory, we're not exactly playing for a stall through that, and Salvage Bin is going to be delayed value, and since we have just Spike, we want to be as strong as possible. And with this combat synergetic setup, we could be extremely strong going into the later stages of the game. So most likely defaulting that unless we are valuing. And Group Hug is also an amazing option. Okay, so, right. The reason why we are probably valuing this Salvage Bin right now is we have to make the fundamentals of TFT, right? 3 item units, get those as fast as possible, and this gives us some form of an option. Also gives us a possibility to perhaps remake the double Crown Guard if we wanted to, or slam a third one. Having an open cloak obviously is what we are looking for, is greatly spotted, and we're going to value that TG at the moment a little bit higher, and if we find another glove, we can slam that or the remake. This is simply going to be a little bit of a more item value. The triple Crown Guard play is an interesting one, but obviously until we make it to another bow for that Rage Blade, we do not really have that many ways of killing rods. The rod situation has been a little bit dire right now, so we know we are able to print that Rek'Sai 3, so this is the thing to note. Apart from Bard last set, who could not complete your 3 stars, the primordial units can. And now on a 6 streak is amazing spot, and we should be able to just cruise. We do not have the excess items, so holding on to the Kali tree is fine, but it also would not be a completely wrong play to give up on her at the moment. But since we are running no scout, no pivot, she's going to be having a little bit of extra stats from that augment, so it might be worthwhile to contest for the highest cap possible for ourselves. Now, we are in a more situation of needing items, but however, we have that glove offering right now. But we can obviously, since we have that salvage win, we can play the mental game of looking for some kind of glove item here, and that then the tier can become some kind of a protector's drought. Tripling down on the crown guard is not as great since that shield has the expiration duration on it anyhow. So let's see what choice he makes. I believe both choices are fine, and he wants to be securing that glove right there. So we're going to be going for that and having our finally the 3-item velvet. This is the issue sometimes we might run into playing this comp if you are taking quite a lot of combat augments, is that you do not exactly have. And right, this is completing our Sunfire for ourselves. The mental game of salvage bin has paid out, and we have our anti-heal sorted out, so our utility is fully set, and we have another nice TG roll on the Briar, swapping the sides into the Victor 3 who has spiked. But our Rek'Sai does make it into his face, so perhaps she's able to delay long enough, and that is exactly the keys for our Bel'Veth to be able to get through their front line and make it to the Victor back, and we are continuing our streak. Just going to be looking to probably econ up to make it to the level 8, and now that we are one Akali off, we should be completely fine to picking her up. Other thing to note about positioning, this Kindred unit obviously jumps back, so if you want to make it to Shen, you're completely fine to third row him, or if you're playing some kind of group hug or whatever, you are fine to put him in that frontline department. So you see, jumps back and is back in safety. Otherwise, we are looking to be attacking the weak sides of the enemy front lines. We are displaying a burst comp, something like similar to the Slayer's line in the previous set. If you're able to break through their weak side and onto the... That way, access the backline, you are going to be picking up the rounds. Here, we are simply looking for, if most likely, the Rage Blade right here. But single bow was completely what we are looking for. An interesting choice to be going for the anomalies. 30 devil, yeah, like... This seems insane to triple it below 85% of health. All the tests that we have done and tested so far, that does not seem to be that prime, but we otherwise do not really have other ways to be completing the items right now. This is again, our items haven't, well, we have had amazing unit drops and quality. We have not exactly had the best an augment quality is. We have not had exactly the best itemization, but still, by simply slamming those strong items early on, we have been able to put ourselves in an amazing position. Now into the mech board that is fully loaded in. We unfortunately do take the loss, and completing the Hodge there is another thing to know, since you're running the crit. Rageblade seems to be one of the better options, but I should have also noted that QSSS is great for also the Kindred, since you have that crit from the Akali. It's a little bit more synergy right there on that front. And we do not exactly have more uses of these rods, so we just simply have to keep this anomaly on the Kindred. Able to get through that Nunu quite fast, but are we going to be able to get through this Jax 3 right here with the Soraka's Miracle as an absolute beast? And we can see the reason why he's getting nerfed a little bit in the next patch. Able to just stall long enough for that. And now we are able to finally find our last Nova unit in the Caitlyn, and we're slotting that in right away. Completed a Kali 3 as well, and going to transition the TG on her. So we're going to be valuing the Kindred items, the pure attack speed items on the Kindred one even more than on the Briar 3. Into a fast 9 of Vex board that has also managed to get there quite healthy, so this is quite scary, especially if they're able to keep stronger. But we can see this Bel'Veth face tanking for quite a while, but the Vex scaling has kicked in, so we're going to lose that fight. Otherwise, now we could be just simply looking to try to improve our item quality. We probably might be fishing for bows, but we see that that's another rod, so that leaves us with an Archangel. It's not exactly what we're looking for. Could be considering... Okay, yeah, Ecstatic's Gauge for the Briar to use those bruiser items is also completely fine. I would assume he was probably looking for a potential to be improving his Kindred items at the spot, or potential a little bit improvement on the tank front. always having to play those mental games with salvage bin. That is why it's one of the highest skill expressive augments. Now, we could evaluate the lobby situation, and perhaps he's considering option to go 9. Since we have that one kindred secured, we would be realistically only rolling for a kindred 2, and we have not even found a pair. We have to evaluate here, is this going to make placement difference for ourselves if we are able to find it or not? If we found a pair, I believe then we are fine to send out. Velvet did aggro on the ASOL right there, and this is just an interesting fight to note. Like, they do not have the anima cash out to make this mech extremely strong, but we managed to also get on the Tom Kench side before. The chip on the ASOL did not do too much, but we still got on. We didn't even aggro on the Karma, so we were able to pretty much front to back this comp. We can just see, like, with these synergistic combat augments, especially since we are further reducing the resistances from the mech right there, we are extremely strong. And now that we have made it to the stage 6, this no scout, no pivot has gotten incredible value for ourselves. Obviously, one should note that this has been transitioned in the set into an aura rather than just giving the buffs to the unit. You have fielded as many turns as they are up there. Going to be remaking these items for the Akali. We can go with Hand of Justice right there. Deathblade, Guardbreaker, amazingly spotted by Robinsongz. We can pretty much sort out the Abyss Akali through that. Very well played. And now into the fast 9 Vex board. We are on the same side, but this has allowed us, the Belvets, to actually get onto the Vex. That is an absolute disaster for them. If you are able to face tank their Prime carry damage, then also going on the strong side seems completely fine. Have to get a little bit lucky for you to be able to access the backline like that. And perhaps if they further stack their frontline on there, that would be great. But we managed to punish them. Going into the Panny Andrews 2 tanky Samira board, who I managed to hit right now. And we have to see how we fare this. Obviously, this Ornn 3 now is an absolute menace as well with the Ninu 2 right there. And we just simply do not seem to be able to get through their front line. But they are on 1 life, and we have to see if they are able to get through that fast 9 board. Now we make it to level 9 ourselves due to managing our recon so well. And we find a Morgana, and now we find a Kindred too. But yeah, we're going to be looking for that Shen. Going to be valuing the Kindred upgrade so much more than just this last flex slot. Into the strong side of this Vex board, so we have to see how we fare. Are we going to be able to pull the wrap off once again? And it seems that in some way the unit pathing we're able to do so. We do get onto the Vex, but not fast enough, and the rest of our board got cleaned up from the Bard side. Now we pretty much have a free item that we could be of choosing. Able to find another attack speed item for that Kindred, get that Kraken sorted out. So now we're going to be going in this kind of positioning where we are getting the most amount of buff from the Shen from ourselves, and again into the strong side. So he seems to be valuing that perhaps this way we can beat this matchup is by getting through onto that Vex through there. But this Nunu has now extremely stalled long enough, and they have that Leona in front line as well. And we're going to be losing to this fast 9 board, who has pretty much reached its highest cap, and even with combat augments and item augments not taking any form of econ, obviously that is going to be a little bit stronger of the board. But extremely well played tempo plays, well recognized, and also noted that on Kindred 1, even the items are a little bit stronger. Going to make the substitution in my cheat sheet right there. But find the strong augment, find that we are in the spot to be further juicing up with even more combat augments, and then sort our items out, as we did not exactly get offered item options, but through carefully planning of the salvage bin and identifying, keeping track of your combat opponents, we are able to arrive at a great item setup and secure a top 2 from managing our roll windows and spiking hard on the points necessary. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned something new, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.